The soft chime of my banking app sliced through the quiet of my morning. Another royalty payment, right on time. I leaned back in my leather chair, my silk blouse brushing coolly against my skin, and glanced out the tall glass window of my apartment. Manhattan was still waking up, taxis crawling like yellow beetles below, sunlight pooling over the Hudson. The number on my screen wasn't small. It never was. I sipped my coffee, its warmth lingering on my lips, and for a moment, the bitterness took me back. Back to the days when I thought family meant trust. The sender's name still made me smile, though not for the reasons you'd expect. Vanguard Hive LLC. My cousin Daniel's company. The one that had revolutionized the market with an idea I'd whispered to him one rainy afternoon years ago. Now, he paid me every single month for the privilege of using it. My phone buzzed again, this time a text. "Hey, Kate. We should talk. Urgent." The irony wasn't lost on me. For years, he'd been too busy to listen, too proud to look back. And now, here he was needing me. I set my coffee down, smoothing the page of the leather notebook on my desk, the same one my grandmother had given me with the words, "Never let anyone silence your ideas." Looks like it was going to be one of those days. 3 years ago, I wasn't sitting in a Manhattan high-rise. I was in my cramped studio in Brooklyn, knees pulled up to my chest, sketching ideas into that same leather notebook. Daniel had always been the golden boy of the family, Columbia graduate, sharp suits, endless charm. Me? I was the dreamer, the one who couldn't stick to a real job. But that night, I'd finally cracked something worth sharing, a platform that connected micro-creators directly with niche sponsors, bypassing the suffocating middlemen. When I called him, my voice was buzzing with excitement. "Danny, listen, I think I've found a way to change the game." We met at a coffee shop downtown. I remember the smell of cinnamon and burnt espresso, the scratch of my pen as I drew diagrams on a napkin. His eyes flicked over my notes, his smile polite but distracted. "That's interesting, Kate," he said, sliding his cup toward the edge of the table. "But you don't have the resources to pull something like this off. It's complicated. Investors want to see experience, not just ideas." The words hit like ice water. My hands trembled under the table. I'd expected him to poke holes, sure, but not to dismiss me entirely. I'd trusted him, shared my raw, unpolished vision because he was family. A week later, he stopped returning my calls. 2 months later, I saw the press release. Vanguard Hive launches creator sponsor platform. It was my idea. My diagrams. My napkin sketches. I didn't cry. Not then. Instead, I walked to my grandmother's house, notebook in hand. She was in the kitchen, her silver hair tucked neatly into a bun, rolling out pie crust. "People will take from you if you let them," she said, sliding the notebook back toward me. "But the mind that created one good idea can create another. The trick is you don't give them the second chance." That night, I wrote until my fingers ached. By dawn, I had the seed of something new, different enough to be mine, but powerful enough to stand on its own. And this time, I would build it quietly, alone. The first year was brutal. I swapped my Brooklyn studio for a cheaper sublet in Queens. My office was a folding table wedged between the kitchen counter and a narrow window that looked out onto a brick wall. The paint was peeling. The radiator hissed all night. But that leather notebook never left my side. Every morning, I brewed a single cup of coffee, sat down, and worked on my new concept, a subscription-based analytics tool for niche creators, something that could give them leverage when negotiating with brands. It was a cousin to my original idea, but sharper, more defensible, and this time, mine alone. I didn't know much about coding, but I learned. YouTube tutorials, online boot camps, free documentation. I devoured them all. My first prototype looked like a middle school science project, but it worked just enough to prove it could. Still, I hit walls. Investors brushed me off, muttering about market saturation. Brands wanted case studies I didn't have. There were nights I stared at my screen until my vision blurred, wondering if Daniel had been right. Maybe I didn't have the resources. Maybe I was just naive. Then came Evelyn Clark. She was a former tech CEO I met at a local women's networking brunch. Her laugh was warm, her eyes sharp, and when I nervously pitched my idea over scrambled eggs, she didn't smirk or wave me off. "You're onto something," she said, scribbling her number on the back of the event flyer. "Call me tomorrow. We'll talk funding." That call changed everything. With Evelyn's mentorship and a small but crucial seed investment, I could finally hire a part-time developer, pay for proper UX design, and run a targeted launch. The day our first paying subscriber signed up, I celebrated with a $6 cupcake and called my grandmother. From there, growth was slow but steady. A small wave of creators signed up, then another, until the revenue chart started climbing. I learned to negotiate licensing deals, filed for trademarks, and even secured a patent for a key feature. But I stayed quiet. My social media showed just enough, a coffee cup here, a blurry photo of my laptop there, to suggest I was still working on something. I never posted revenue numbers, never hinted at the scope of my client base. Meanwhile, Vanguard Hive, Daniel's empire, exploded in popularity. Tech magazines called him visionary. Family gatherings became his victory laps. And I smiled, congratulated him, and went back to my own corner of the world, knowing something he didn't. My product was becoming indispensable to companies like his. 3 years after that rainy coffee shop meeting, I got the first inquiry from his legal department. They wanted to license my analytics technology for integration into Vanguard Hive. I drafted the terms myself. And when the signed contract came back, I poured myself a glass of wine, opened my banking app, and watched the first royalty payment hit my account. It was the sweetest deposit I'd ever seen. The meeting was set for a Wednesday afternoon. Daniel insisted we meet at his company's headquarters in Soho, but I countered with my office on Madison Avenue. If we were going to have this conversation, it would be on my turf. When he walked in, I saw the same confidence he'd always worn, the custom navy suit, the slicked-back hair, the easy smirk. But his eyes, they darted around the room, taking in the space. My office wasn't ostentatious, but it was impossible to mistake it for anything but successful. The walls were lined with framed patents, a few industry awards, and minimalist black and white photographs from my travels. On a low shelf, between rows of reference books, sat my grandmother's leather notebook. "Nice place," he said, sliding into the chair across from my desk. "Didn't realize you'd upgraded." I smiled, folding my hands. "We all grow in our own ways." His voice was smooth, but I caught the faint edge of urgency as he launched into his pitch. Vanguard Hive had a new expansion in the works, one that required analytics far beyond their current capability. After extensive market research, they determined my company's software was the best fit. He spoke like a man offering me an opportunity, as if I should be flattered. When he finally stopped, I leaned back. "Daniel, you already know the licensing terms. You've been paying them for a year." He shifted, caught off guard. "Right, but this would be a deeper integration. Long-term, strategic. We'd need more access." "That," I said, "comes at a premium." I turned my monitor toward him, pulling up the proposed contract. His eyes scanned the figures, the new royalty rate, the mandatory public acknowledgement of my company's technology, and the clause earmarking a percentage of profits for scholarships for women in tech entrepreneurship. His jaw tightened. "You're kidding." "I'm not." My tone was calm even. "These are the terms. You sign, you get what you need. If not, well, there are other companies eager to work with us." For a moment, the air between us thickened. I could almost hear the hum of the city outside, muffled through the glass. "You know," he said finally, "I always respected your persistence." I almost laughed. "No, Daniel. You respected my silence. It made things easier for you." He looked away, then back, and I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Not arrogance, not pity, but recognition. The unspoken admission that I'd beaten him at his own game. He signed a contract without another word. As I slid the papers into a folder, I caught a glimpse of his reflection in the office window. The cousin who once told me I didn't have the resources, now bound by a deal on my terms. I stood, extending my hand. "Pleasure doing business with you." His grip was firm, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. After he left, I poured myself another coffee and set the signed contract beside my grandmother's notebook. The faint scent of worn leather mixed with a rich aroma of espresso, grounding me in the moment. 3 years ago, I'd walked away from a betrayal with nothing but an idea and a promise to myself. Now, the man who'd dismissed me was paying, literally, for underestimating me. And the best part? This was only the beginning. The ink on Daniel's signature was barely dry when I emailed my legal team. Within an hour, the finalized contract was filed, notarized, and locked into our secure servers. That night, I read through it again, savoring the clauses one by one. This wasn't just a deal, it was leverage. The royalty payments were generous, yes, but money wasn't my only goal. I wanted something lasting, something that would ripple outward. Clause 7. Vanguard Hive would publicly acknowledge that their new analytics engine was licensed from Clark Metrics, my company. Every press release, every investor report, every pitch deck would carry my name. Clause 8. 5% of the profits from the new expansion would fund the Evelyn Clark Scholarship for Women in Technology, named after my mentor, who had believed in me when almost no one else did. Clause 10. In the event of late payments, penalties would double. No wiggle room, no excuses. When Daniel called the next morning, his tone was clipped. "You drive a hard bargain." "I learned from the best," I said lightly, knowing the irony would sting. I could have rubbed it in, reminded him of that rainy coffee shop meeting when he told me I didn't have the resources. But I didn't. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about boundaries, about building something that couldn't be taken from me again. At the next family gathering, word had already spread. A few relatives glanced at me with new curiosity, others with quiet respect. My mother squeezed my hand under the table, a proud, private gesture. Daniel arrived late, his usual charm in place, but when our eyes met, there was no condescension, only acknowledgement. He pulled me aside near the buffet. "You could have shut me out entirely," he said. "Why didn't you?" I met his gaze. Because the mind that created one good idea can create another. I'm not afraid of competition anymore. And maybe you'll think twice before dismissing the next woman who shares an idea with you. He didn't argue. He just nodded once, and for Daniel, that was as close to an apology as I was going to get. The first monthly payment under the new agreement arrived exactly on schedule. I forwarded a portion directly to the scholarship fund. It felt clean, balanced. This was my upper hand, and I intended to keep it, not clenched like a fist, but open, steady, holding the power without letting it consume me. Months passed, and the payments became a rhythm, a quiet, steady reminder that I had turned betrayal into leverage. The Evelyn Clark Scholarship launched in the spring. Our first recipients were 3 young women from different corners of the country, a high school senior building a coding app for her community, a single mom studying data analytics, and a college sophomore working on a sustainable tech startup. Meeting them at the award luncheon was like looking back at my younger self, eager, uncertain, and brimming with potential. Daniel's company integrated our technologies seamlessly, and the press releases rolled out as promised. My company's name appeared in industry articles, podcasts, and conference panels. People began reaching out, not because I'd asked for attention, but because I'd earned it. One Saturday afternoon, I found myself in my grandmother's kitchen again. She was older now, moving more slowly, but her eyes were still bright. "So," she said, pouring tea into delicate china cups, "you've done well." I smiled. "I kept your advice." She tapped the leather notebook sitting on the table between us. "Never let anyone silence your ideas." I ran my fingers over its worn cover, remembering the sting of that first dismissal, the long nights alone, the quiet wins no one saw. "I didn't just keep my voice," I said softly. "I built something no one can take." That night, I sat by my apartment window, the city lights flickering below. I thought about Daniel, not with anger, but with clarity. He would go on running his company, and every month, a piece of that success would arrive in my account, helping fund new voices, new ideas. It wasn't revenge. It was reclamation. And as I closed my laptop, I whispered the words I knew would be perfect for the closing of any story about me. The best kind of justice is the kind that pays interest.